Okay, so here we are at the top of 16 with Dr. Cowan's Tragic Abyss essay. Further, one might hazard that the tragic work of art as a ritual conveying the sudden intuition of outer darkness surprisingly reveals that shadowy realm to be not chaos as uncreation as one might think, but a ruin, creation after the fall. In it, order is confounded, goodness marred. Keep highlighting. Putting it simply then, we could say that tragedy results from a final anagnoresis, a recognition of the harm done by some primordial event. But this vision is dependent upon an instantaneous revelation in which the tragic protagonist and the viewers of tragedy see what creation was like before the ruin, and at the same moment recognize that they themselves have been responsible for the loss. Keep highlighting. Confronted with their imperfection, which they discern as an external depth into which they have fallen, and finding themselves to blame for everything, they are stunned into immobility as from a sudden blow. Stop. So, again, you watch something like Romeo and Juliet, you're not the one killing yourself over love or lust, but you realize that you, as a human, are also responsible for the bad things humans do. And I don't mean directly responsible, but I mean like just responsible for the collective identity of why people do bad things. Question?
No, actually.
Oh, okay. I don't want you to feel guilty about that. Like, some people don't, they take reservation with what I say, like you're responsible for what things that other people do. Not directly, but you yourself could do it as a human. Like, we're responsible for the human condition. But it is only from within the depth, the deep chiaroscuro, circle that. And it means treatment of light and shade in drawing and painting. I'm going to move.
Treatment of what?
Oh, treatment, I'll write it down. Treatment of light and shade in drawing and painting. I didn't want us to get stuck on that because I'm still videoing, but I spelled it wrong. Don't worry, I'm trying to hurry. So the treatment of light and shade in the divine, in the perspective of eternity, that this culpability, which means blame, can be apprehended. Highlight, in ordinary life, human beings have a secret but unexamined awareness of an imperfection in the frame of things and their own implication in it, along with the intuition that they will ultimately be held accountable for it. Tragedy dramatizes this potential judgment, a dreaded experience that in actual life can only be intuited. Stop. The reference point of tragedy is from the deeps. Humanity is viewed from this outer darkness, as in his comedy, Dante portrayed his characters from the outer light. But his view of them, being comic, was external, through observation and conversation. Highlight, the view of tragedy is internal. Through its agency, one is made to see from within the soul a potential experience as though it were taking place. Stop. Perhaps we can begin to delineate, which means to line out, what that potential experience consists of. That experience lies behind and beyond tragedy. Highlight, can we not say that it is the dread of eternal loss along with a simultaneous recognition of one's full value? Stop. Lucian Goldman quotes an anonymous 17th century Jansenist text. There is in our heart so deep an abyss that we cannot sound its depths. We can scarcely make out light from dark or good from evil. But the affliction that God in his infinite mercy sends down upon us is a two-edged sword that enters into the very depths of our hearts and minds. There it, circle, cleaves our human thoughts from those which God causes to rise up in our soul, and the Spirit of God can then no longer hide itself. We begin to have so clear a knowledge of the Spirit that we can no longer be deceived. Highlight, is it not this sudden switch from one universe to another that causes the vertigo and tragedy we call catharsis? Stop. And is it not the center of that alternative universe that we have suddenly glimpsed? The center from which all radiates? The deep but dazzling darkness of the divine? As in the Commedia, it is the dazzling light. Highlight. Tragedy must thus be seen as the aporia that allows a momentary glimpse of the ruined cosmos, whereas comedy provides, in contrast, a glimpse of its redemption. Stop. Okay, circle aporia. And you don't have to write this because you can look it up. I think I might have actually put it on. I might have given you the definition in your vocabulary words. But aporia means an irresolvable internal contradiction. So it's an internal contradiction which you cannot resolve. It's the collision of good versus good. At the center of the tragic abyss, at the opposing pole from Dante's Son in the comedy, is the event that staggers the imagination, the agony of a god, an event sensed preveniently from illo tempore. That you can circle that, and it means from that time. It is Latin for that time. Highlight. Thus, the terror of tragedy stems from the sudden vision of our implication in the sacrifice, with its resultant imperative to choose for or against the bottomless abyss of love, which has to be witnessed as though it is from beyond this life. Keep going. Hence, the tragic vision seems to have to do with facing both the origin and the end of things, the veiled chaos and the old night that surround the author of the cosmos. Stop. I see the beginning, and now I seize the ending, as Dilsey professes in The Sounds and the Fury. The endeavor is something like the way in which Einstein conceived of modern physics, as bringing one closer to the secret of the old one. To become aware of a vast, all-fathering darkness and a suffering God is to see something that reminds the audience uncomfortably of the act of creation, its own rootedness in matter and its gravity and guilt in the downward pull toward the ancient mother. Stop. Yahweh's answer to Job is to remind him of the secret ways of the earth. Oedipus's murky path leads him to the grove of the Furies, ladies whose eyes are terrible. Lear's wanderings in the storm teach him something repugnant but humbling about the reproductive fertility of nature. Wole Soyinka laments the gradual loss in Western drama of the earth and the cosmic consciousness, attributing its absence to Platonic and Christian thought, though such a radical shift seems probably more related to the dominant modern view of the universe as mechanism. Highlight. In devouring the existence of the dark energy in the universe that devours whole galaxies, postmodern cosmologists are coming to view our little planet as insignificant indeed, a small point in the blankness of infinite space. Stop. If a requirement for tragedy is guilt toward a precious earth and humility toward a vast outer darkness which, though we cannot comprehend it, beckons to us with love, along with a sharp awareness of the ruin we have made of the human enterprise, then 21st century writers may once again be able to evoke the necessary shared pity and terror that tragedy demands. But it is not without one secret ingredient. Without Job's lamentations, Oedipus's grave and noble protests, Lear's howls of remorse, Hamlet's anguished theatrical meditations, there could be no tragedy. Highlight. The tragic hero suffers not in silence, but in the most opulent and expressive language the world has known. From these cries arising in the center of the soul, the secret dwelling place of language, in a darkness corresponding to the abyss, bursts the poetry that raises human suffering to the level of contemplation and, to a stunned and gratified audience, conveys the liberation of tragic joy.